This video is a kind of a teaser for videos to come. It's about leaking. This is Haplogroup Q, and you see that it's very dominant. It's close to 100% and probably 100% in Amazon forest. And this pattern is more or less constant all over the Americas. And then you find it back, surprisingly, in Siberia, and here next to the Caspian Sea, and in some places in Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, and here strong in Greenland. So this is about the leaking of an ancestor. It's thriving so much that it comes out of the Amazon forest, populates the whole of South America, the whole of North America. Greenland leaks a little bit to over Beringia, but this is a permafrost region, so it's not very appealing. So it's rather limited here to the Bering Strait itself. On this side, a little bit here, it's volcanic. It probably went down also this way, and it was wiped out in Japan because there was a lot of other movements afterwards, because Haplogroup Q is the oldest haplogroup in my hypothesis. There's videos with fundamental proofs based on ancestral and migrational markers, and there's also this proof of pure 100% haplogroup blood group O, which is recessive, so it cannot come from another region. This is also true for the rest of the Americas. So anyhow, in my hypothesis, so there is this migration to the McKenzie River mouth, and then, let's put it simple here, this goes to Nova Zembla, which is 3,000 kilometers because the map deforms. For instance, this is 30,000 kilometers, and this is 3,000 kilometers because they are like touching on in the Arctic Circle. They are really in the Arctic Circle both. And that's a relatively small circle, so they are touching, but you don't see that on this type of maps we are used to. So it comes in here. This is what I call Nova Zembla entry, or the Yenisei River entry, and it goes down. This is one of the directions. It went down in the deep past to form the ancient cultures. It also goes here to the Indus Valley, which is one of the older cultures. It also goes to Mesopotamia, which is a very old culture. And anyhow, this is more or less the steps, but this is Q. And now we will talk about, but it's to show that these routes, this movement, was used. So now we are looking at Haplogroup R, while Q is 35,000 or much more. I claim it's million years old. This one is not more than 90,000, and some of these haplogroups, like this one, is probably 4,000 to 5,000 years old. And but the movement is the same. Because it's Holocene, and they improved in navigation, or they have other objectives, and they use, this is the route, they use the North Atlantic Gyre to land in the Atlantic Facade. But you should count here St. Petersburg, because that's almost in the middle of the steppes. You could count this as well, because we're in the Holocene, and this is all ice-free, so they can navigate. This is of course the shortest way, but then they have to navigate here to use the same entry as Q used, much deeper in the deep past. So anyhow, they form this group, and it brings over the Native American DNA, so nothing has to go back with or without the Icebridge. There's no Icebridge anymore to bring this DNA deep into the Amazon, because it comes from the Amazon. So this is just a teaser. You cannot see it here, but this is the route followed down from Nova Zembla entry, the Yenisei River entry. And you see this is one of the oldest cultures, Afanasievo culture, 3,300 to 2000 BC. And then these are more recent cultures, but they fill up the steps. So this will at some point give rise to the Yamnaya from here to here, and possibly the Yamnaya came down from the upper Yenisei River next to the Ural, which is probably more or less here. So they came down. So they are more or less in the area where the Yamnaya take hold, and then the Yamnaya come from the west. But we should not forget that. So this was Nova Zembla coming in, and this was this old culture, and then you had this same two rivers that lead to south of the Ural Mountains, which is the place of Sintashta and Yamnaya, and this are the group David Reich talks about, mentions, and give the name of the population turnover event. But it's, after all, it's R1, it's a descendant of R1, and this is one that gets involved, and I claim it comes this direction with the Northern Gyre, but otherwise, because otherwise David Reich cannot explain that this is the route and it ends up here if it doesn't come over, if it doesn't leak into Western Europe and Western Eurasia through the top, which can be really like this, which is 3,000 kilometers, but it could be there's other ways to get there too. They could go this and go further as well, or yeah, they could move here in St. Petersburg and move by land and come from the west, like David Reich claims. But the approach of David Reich has a problem because he cannot explain the Native American DNA, and that's why he tries to explain that they go all the way to the permafrost where there is no sign at all of them, and there is no Icebridge anymore, and then suddenly it has to populate to bring this Yamnaya, supposed Yamnaya DNA all over the Americas. I will take advantage as a kind of a teaser that the Americas are also leaking by this route, which is the South Atlantic Gyre. It's a movement, a strong movement, and it pulls whatever comes from this coast of South America, it pulls it here, and it brings the R1b from the route. It could be here the route, well, it's here the route, but it could be here as well because it's not given a name. So what I will do now is show Africa, how South America, most probably South America, lead to Africa. That will come in a minute. So what I'm going to show is the Americas leaking this way to Africa. I will get there in a minute. This is R1 in North America, getting to Europe first, R1A, later R1B. Again, this is Americas. I will show it like this, if it were like this, and they come in here. This is the Yenisei River, this is the Nova Zembla entry, and they go here to this oldest culture, or they go here to where the Yamnaya are. And I cannot explain right now, because it would take me time, why we don't have more Q here, and that is because there was so much movement afterwards, and all that was of Q is turned over by the later Haplogroup R. Here Q was much older, and this is one of the ways that Haplogroup R starts to invade and prepare for the population turnover event that will wipe out Haplogroup Q and all that was before Haplogroup R. It's the same. It's the same. The Native American has to explain why it is in Northern Europe, why it's in Western Europe, why it's in Western Eurasia. This is the explanation of David Reich. So somehow this ancient North Eurasia, ancient Siberia, has to go and populate all of the Americas and all of Greenland, and possibly as late as 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and there's no Icebridge anymore. So this is the route coming in from Nova Zembla entry, and this is the route coming in from the Ural, the same river, by the way, same river, and it brings them to the steppes, and Yamnaya is one of them. And this is the leaking into Africa. That you have this South Atlantic Gyre that pulled here, and you see that this Haplogroup B is leaking into Africa. This was like kind of a teaser, but of course I have to explain it better. So what I claim is that Haplogroup B is a descendant of Haplogroup Q. It's leaking from the Americas, but by the time it leaks into Africa, it is mutated or it is hybridized, and I will claim it is hybridized. Thank you for watching. Bye.